I'm all wired to go. Seven-line prayer. 울겐유기누 점섬 배말게서던 불러 역센축기누 주님 배마주녀 시수저 고두간 조마 부굴 개기제수덕유기 진기랍지세 스소 구루페마시리 울게유기 누점섬 배말게서동보 약세축이 누줍네 배마주녀 시수조 고두간 주망보 굴 계기제수덕유기 진지랍지셰스 소 구루베마시디 In English, hung at Orkney's northwestern frontier, on a stem and a corona of a lotus flower, wondrous supreme accomplishment attained. As the lotus-born renowned, encircled by a retinue of many dakinis, so that I may become like you, please come and grant your blessing. Guru Padma Siddhi Hum. So take a deep breath. Could I have some Kleenex? So take a deep breath. Hold your breath. Just let your mind settle naturally into its own place. So when you let the mind settle into its own place, you're automatically just letting the mind be. Remember, you don't have to know or experience for the mind to just be. It's always being, whether it's being something or not, whether you know it or not. When you just simply let it be, it's automatically being itself without any effort. So there's natural being and effortful being. When it's no longer natural, could you simply be by itself? And then you have to apply effort, or you may have to add something more so it can just be. You can just let the mind be. If that's not enough, you just simply let the mind be the mind. So if you need more, you can simply have the mind observe the mind. So mind just being the mind, and mind just observing the mind. Mind automatically becomes the mind. This is how we purify the mind without doing anything. Without doing anything to it. So take a break for a moment. So if we're beginning to having the clarity is more important. instead of the duration. Being short and clear, awake, is more important than trying to drag it out and not being so clear. Okay? So even in this is not exactly Dzogchen meditation. This is like Dzogchen shamatha. We still have, it's better to do in the beginning, many shorties. Not as short as when you're doing Dzogchen meditation. So when you're taking a break, when you're resting, make sure you're resting. You're not lost in something else before you start. So if you're truly lost, not lost in anything in between sessions, that's the real meditation and non-meditation. As we did before, simply just dropping everything for meditation. So when you take a break, you automatically just drop. Period. See how long you can just simply drop? Before the mind begins again, gets lost in something. Even 1 or 2 seconds is enough to see that mere absence. Just start to get the feel of that intuitively. At first, you will not be able to see that very clearly. When you just simply drop everything, you won't see that mere absence clearly because you're not used to it. You're not familiar with it. So that's where the real meditation is, when you just simply drop the meditation. Totally drop the meditation. What are we doing? Just totally dropping the thinking mind. So what is left is the non-thinking, pure mind. Of course, which is not so easy to see or experience. But you know where to look and how to look. And when to look. All right, let's start over again. And we can just simply start out by just being. Just be, period. No afterthought, no comment. No perception of mind or awareness. Just simply being. empty being. So you want to know through your own experience when you can't just simply be. That's when you can just be the mind. Simply just be the mind. Mind not as anything. As I said before, if you need a little bit more, just let the mind observe the mind. Just let the mind be the mind without focusing on the mind. Just let the mind observe the mind without focusing on the mind. Mind, just simply observing the mind without observing anything. Because the mind is not anything. Absolutely not anything. So just awake, just relaxed. Mind is just simply observing mind. That's a way for the mind to just be mind. So now just simply drop the mind. Drop the meditation. Without being distracted to anything. Just simply dropping. So it's easier to experience that dropping when you really do it with a gesture, instead of just trying to do it very subtly with the mind. When you really, it's much easier to experience the dropping, instead of just being there trying to do it very subtly. If you experience meditator, you can do it that way. For a beginner, it's much better to really accentuate the dropping, okay? Because you really feel the drop. Because you're making it more real. Yeah, so after you drop, before the mind becomes something, gets engaged in something, that's the period that you want to be noticing. That's the period where you can really access the empty mind. So before I start to say something about the mind, or say, why can't we just be the mind? Or why are we trying to be in the mind itself? But first, I want to get some of your experiences, especially if for those who are new. So, So you may think, or it may appear to you, that you're off the mark. Or you don't, it's hard to tell whether you're doing the right thing or not because it's formless. We don't have much to work with. We don't have something to tell whether we're doing right or wrong. That's why I want you to tell me your experience so I can tell you kind of what's going on. You may not be doing it as wrong as you think you are. So what do you experience when we just let the mind and be the mind, or simply have the mind, just observe the mind? You must have experienced something.
First, thank you very much for your teaching. On Sunday, on Sunday, you used
Hold on. Okay.
the metaphor of a wave.
I can.
Very helpful to me. And I wonder...
Need some help. I don't know if I'm doing this right or not.
Can you hear anything? Can you do some testing?
Test.
Keep saying it.
Test. 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 Test.
Keep going.
Test. 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 Test.
Okay.
This one.
Test.
You don't need that one. That one doesn't work.
What?
This one doesn't work. Just this one. That one doesn't work.
It doesn't work?
It doesn't work.
Oh, I got to put it in this ear.
Okay.
That's my good ear. Okay.
Test.
Test. Test.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so on Sunday in your teaching, you made reference to the idea of a wave.
Of a what?
A wave.
Wave.
Yes. And I find that particular metaphor very helpful to get that idea of dissolving.
Uh-huh.
And but I feel as if that a metaphor is maybe a little bit like training wheels.
Yeah.
And at some point, then you let go of that metaphor itself.
Right. But
So-
yeah, go ahead.
So, in a particular kind of wave, like if I was way out on the ocean and no shape, just that up and down, kind of slowly. And
Yeah.
Is that a good practice to just sort of be in a place of a pleasant metaphor like that without getting too attached to the image itself?
Yeah, you don't want to get attached. You don't want to focus on the image. Then you're being counterproductive. You see, they should say we're out in the middle of the ocean. We're not focusing on anything, but we experience the movement arising and dissolving, rising and settling. But it's empty of anything. That's the way the mind is. This experienceable, perceptible mind arises, then it dissolves constantly. It appears and disappears. So first of all, we have to notice that. Usually we don't notice that. That's going on, but we're just so focused on the thought or experiences or whatever observing, we don't notice that constant arising and dissolving. Mind never stays the same. The thinking mind, it's always on the move. So we want to slow the mind down so we can begin to observe this thinking mind. So we have to, this is what I meant before. Even though there's no mind, we have to become familiar, clearer about this thinking mind before we can begin to access the nature of mind. Mind which is ever present. Mind that is present when the thinking mind is absent. Just like when we drop, the thinking mind is absent. But if you don't have any clarity of the thinking mind, if you're not familiar at all, it'll be impossible for you to recognize the nature of mind, the ever-present mind, when you drop the thinking mind, the small mind. So we're like, if you're unfamiliar, we're like in no man's land, very unfamiliar territory. So we have to get used to that. The more we get used to that, that'll become clearer. Does that help or make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. This is why we have to talk about it. If you're not really clear of what's going on, we should talk about it to see what's going on with you. If you're clear, then you don't need to talk about it. But I don't think, for most of you, it's not really clear what is going on when you're just simply letting the mind just be the mind, or mind just being, or mind just observing the mind.
Hey,
Go ahead.
you said before that it was better to do short periods where you have clarity rather than longer periods.
Right.
So one of my biggest problems, especially when I do longer sessions, is I kind of get drowsy.
That's exactly why I said shorter is better than longer.
So is there any tricks to kind of waking yourself back up again?
Yeah. Catch yourself and stop before it starts to sour or go bad or unclear. You just have to be vigilant. So there's not much value to try to keep on going when the clarity is not there. You know? It has no power. It's not doing that much good. Yeah, I know we automatically have this tendency to think that, it's got to be longer. It's just at an unconscious level, because longer is better. I'm making progress. But no, you're not making progress. It's longer and it's not clear. Okay?
There's a question. You said mind was always present.
Yeah,
However, in deep dreamless sleep,
yeah.
there doesn't appear to be a me. there, or any mind or anything
Yeah.
like that.
Well, you see, that's the. Go ahead and finish. I'm
And
sorry.
so at the point where we can just kind of drop everything, does it become as absent to our system that tries to remember things and tries to and experiences things? I mean, is it an experience of no experience? And how do you even know you've got it then?
So, what is your question?
My question is, what is there to actually know that I experienced it while I'm experiencing
Okay.
it?
Yeah. Good. You remember me saying the mind is present before you know that it's present, and you don't have to know it to be present. It's always present. It's present before you know it and after you know it. So we're interested in the mind that's always present. But in order to access that, we need to become familiar with the mind that comes and goes, the mind which we experience most of the time, the mind that confuses us. Otherwise, if we have no clarity of how we're confused, how are we going to work through the confusion? So you can experience that even right now. Do you have to actually know that the mind exists for you to experience the mind? Huh? Of course not. I can't hear you. I'm not.
It's just happening without effort.
Exactly. That's what we got to become familiar with. See, we're totally oblivious to that. That's what you have to start. To be aware. When you're not aware of anything, know that through your own experience, I don't really have to be aware that I'm aware. I don't have to know that I'm aware to be aware. Right now, see that you're aware before you know that you're aware. You don't know how, but you definitely were not aware before you were aware. Right?
Yes.
Exactly. See, that's what we got to become familiar. That's what we got to start to access. We got to shift our whole way of seeing. Like distraction, confusion is misplaced attention. We have to know where to place your attention so you can start to notice and access what you want to know and what you want to access. Okay?
So there are mind and there are objects of mind,
Yeah.
which are thoughts and sensations
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
emotions and all those things.
Right.
But in one of these, they're just coming and going without.
Right. We're lost in those most of the time. We never pay attention to the mind that is there before being lost. Mind that is there before you know that there is mind.
Yeah.
But you know that that is there before. There's no question. As I said before, all of us know or experience the mind. There's no question. It's indisputable. What can only be disputed is whether the mind is this or that. You can't dispute that mind just is, because we know that. But the problem is we don't really know how that, and we're not clear about that. See, this is the thing which you have to clarify. In order for you to begin to access the true nature of mind, the empty mind. So, it takes time for most of us. And just be patient. Just work through it. This is what you have to become familiar through your own experience. Not just somebody telling you. That's just to get you started. You have to really clarify through your own experience, through your own experimentation. That's what the practice lineage is about. You practice to clarify, not just keep on listening. Okay? Good. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your teachings. My question is a little more basic because I'm just starting out.
What?
I said I'm just starting out, so my
Yes.
question is a bit more basic.
Yeah, right.
I like the sitting with a focus and then letting go.
Yeah.
So it would seem to me that what I recognized is my focus is not as sharp as I thought it was.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
by letting go and then putting your attention back, over time, does that become more precise? Is that training your mind to actually see the difference between letting go and focusing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, first of all, it's kind of meaningless and not fruitful, I think, in terms of beginner or expert. It doesn't matter. As I said before, you're only going to get what you're ready for and what you're capable of getting. So forget about being beginner or expert. Everybody has equal validity. And that is true, what you said about focusing and letting go. It's about focusing. Focusing is none other than your mind, right? And then stop focusing. So when we're meditating, there's effort. And there's a slight focusing. When the mind is just observing the mind. Then when we just drop the meditation, we're letting that go, that focus go. So what was your question on focusing? I want to really get this clear.
My question was, my observation was that by doing that, I realized that my attention and my focus is not nearly as precise as I thought it was.
Yeah, right.
Because of the difference.
Right, yeah.
The focusing and the letting go versus just
Yeah,
sitting there and
yeah.
focusing.
Yeah.
Because I guess you get lazy.
Right.
And you don't know the difference.
Right.
So over time, I would imagine that the difference between the attention and the focus and the letting go becomes wider as you get
Yeah.
more focus
Yeah, it does.
and more attention.
Yeah.
It's a great training tool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So don't get so hung up on focusing. Focusing in a normal relative world is an important tool. But focusing here can be a problem, can be an obstruction. So you don't have to get hung up on focusing. Focusing is not important in this meditation. Okay? We just want to softly focus. When we're doing the meditation, letting the mind be the mind, let the mind just simply observe the mind. We want the minimum amount of focusing. Just enough so it can't be distracted to anything else. We don't want sharp, intense focusing. Okay? Then you'll be lost in the focusing. That means you'll be lost from not being the mind. What happens, the reason I'm telling you this is, what happens when we focus on something, it's no good, it's not working. Constantly going, you know. So, what happens, this is an important point. What happens when we focus, automatically the mind becomes distracted. When we focus, mind leaves itself towards the object of focus and totally forgets itself. That's why focusing in this practice is not what we're trying to really develop. We're trying to develop clarity without focusing. So, the clarity that most of us are familiar with is focusing clarity. Right? So in order to become clear about our mind, the nature of mind, we have to learn how to be clear without focusing. And that's called the uncontrived, unfabricated clarity, unfocused clarity sometimes. So that's why we did the meditation, just seeing without seeing anything, feeling without feeling anything. We have some clarity, but we're not focused on anything. That's how we begin to develop this non-focusing clarity, empty clarity. So this is what causes us problem. When we encounter a thought that we don't want, or when we see somebody that we don't like starts to bother us, because we can't stop focusing on that thought or that person. If you could stop focusing on that thought or the person, then that person or the thought is no longer a problem. See that? So this is the immediate value of the practice. So we could do this meditation just simply be the mind without focusing on anything. Just simply be the mind without the mind focusing on anything. And I want you to see what that is like. Okay, we'll do that right now. Just simply find the experienceable mind and just be that mind without focusing on anything. Or you can just simply be aware without being aware of anything. Without the awareness which you're aware, not focusing on anything. Just get the experience of that. And notice that here, you don't have to be aware of anything to be aware. Mind doesn't have to be anything to be mind. So it shouldn't take you too long to get that experience. So what does that feel like? Are you familiar with that? So what are we doing normally? Normally, we're aware of something, right? Mind has an object. It's hardly ever alone, right? That's why we can't experience our true nature, which is the mind itself. The mind itself is not anything. But we automatically, through conditioning and habituation, have a tendency or think that the mind has to be something. The mind has to experience something. It can't just be. It can't just be without thinking or without being aware of anything. That's a waste of time, right? But that's how we start to access who we really are. Who we really are is the mind itself. When we just simply allow the mind to be the mind, you're automatically allowing the mind to start to be itself. mind itself is not mixed with anything. It's by itself. That's the true nature of mind. The mind that we experience, that we're familiar with, is always mixed with something, right? Do you experience the mind just simply by itself? Do you? You do? You do? Huh?
I think so.
That means you're not when you think so. That's a sure sign that you're not. Because there's no thought involved. When you're experiencing the nature of mind, the experience itself is the nature of mind. The mere experience itself. There's no duality, there's no separation. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. In the nature of mind, the thinking mind is totally absent. Thinking mind, meaning the perceptible mind and the experienceable mind.
Yeah, so just your last point. I didn't really understand that, and I want
You don't really understand it?
No, and I want to give an example. So my experience is, well, you could say conceptually,
Yeah.
one of my perspective or view becoming very big and broad,
Right.
or visually of a kind of terrain or space that's huge.
Right.
But at the same time, and it feels very empty, but at the same time, it's got a sense of being infinite and very
Right.
full. But then isn't that experience itself also a product of mind? Isn't that experience a product of mind?
Yes, it is, of course. Nothing is separate from mind, don't forget.
So do we even have to drop that? So in other words,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Until there's nothing.
In order to experience totally empty mind, you have to you have to drop that. That's what I'm saying. Even the experienceable mind, the way we experience, even that has to be dropped or absent. Those are subtle. Long as you experience something, those are the subtle projections. Those are the subtle small mind. And that's what really prevents you from being totally pure, empty mind.
And so we
So that's good. So that's like a process. You're working your way through. So that's fine. But
So
that's
we-
not the final destination.
Right. So we drop that by noticing that we're experiencing that.
No.
Or
You just-
how do we drop that?
Just simply not focusing. Just simply dropping. Just simply dropping. This is when we do this. When we meditate, there's a subtle effort, right? Without us even knowing. Then when we just drop everything, automatically it's not focusing on anything.
Including the experience.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the way it should be if it's really dropping. Because mind, what we're doing is, even in meditation, if there's some effort, it's holding on to something. It's focusing on something very slightly. Even though we may not be aware of it. So when we really make the effort, say we drop it, all that is dropped. The mind that you were experiencing automatically is dropped, becomes absent. That's what it means, dropping. Dropping the mind which can be dropped. And when you drop the mind which can be dropped, the only thing that remains is the mind which cannot be dropped, that's the ever-present mind, the nature of mind. Is that clear? Good. So, the people, you were here during the weekend and last Thursday and tonight, you must be sick of the mind. Yeah, you probably are sick of the thinking mind, but not sick of the real, ever-present mind.
I have a question about the sense of body.
Hold on. Go ahead.
My question is about your sense of body.
Yeah.
Okay. My mind definitely gets a lot.
You're what?
My mind
Yeah.
gets a lot calmer,
Right.
and there's more space between thoughts,
Right.
right? When we do the practice, but the sense of body is ever present.
Right.
So when you're dropping, you're not dropping.
Well, that should go too.
What? That should go too.
Yeah, everything should go.
Okay, so I did one time have a sense, this is many, many years ago,
Yeah.
of just like dropping into a void.
Exactly.
But I only knew it after the fact,
Yeah.
when I came
That
back.
means it's real. If you knew it at the time, that means it wasn't genuine.
Okay. 'Cause
Got
I
that?
only knew it after the
Yes,
fact, and it was
right,
like,
right.
where'd I go? And it could have been a minute, it could have been an hour.
Exactly.
It was completely
Yeah,
timeless.
that's fine. That's the
Okay.
real deal.
So that's the door.
Yeah. The nature of mind is timeless. You remember, it's beyond everything.
Okay. Well, that's a clue then. Thank you.
Yeah. You see, you've experienced it. You didn't even know it.
Well, I knew something.
Well, now you know.
But I didn't think it.
That's the real deal.
I didn't even talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
It's just like, that was interesting.
Yeah. So I hope you can somehow experience that again.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
But, if we try hard to replicate that, that becomes a distraction.
Right.
Okay? So you just, don't try to get stuck trying to replicate the same thing, but just keep on practicing. Then it happens automatically. It becomes an obstacle when you try to repeat the experience, because it can't be repeated. It's never the same. There's no sameness or difference in that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Okay. So since we're sick of the thinking mind, so we're going to end here. So everybody has this sheet? in the world in general, in this nation. May not even the name of disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, merit, prosperity greatly increase. May continuous good fortune, sublime well-being perfectly arise. In the world in general, in this nation, may not even the name disease, famine, war, suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, merit, prosperity greatly increase. May continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly arise. In the world in general, in this nation, may not even the name of disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, merit, prosperity greatly increase. May continuous good fortune, sublime well-being perfectly arise. By this merit, may all beings gain omniscience, thus defeat the neurosis and negative actions which are the enemies. From turbulent waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may all beings be liberated. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you. So I wanted to have a few announcements before we head out. So the first one is that maybe not everybody was able to read the email today, but Rinpoche wanted me to send a message to the Sangha. And it's a short message, but he said, "Hello everyone, I'm sending my love to each of you. I am so happy that Brendan came to give you teachings, and I hope that you all learned a lot from him. I want to ask all of you to practice well. Create a discipline in your life to do your practice every day. You will realize Dharma if you have discipline. Otherwise, you will always waver. Your mind will always stray from one thing to the next. Stay focused. Maintain your bodhicitta, and you will realize wisdom, compassion, and emptiness. I am praying for each of you, and I will see you soon." So that's from Rinpoche. And Rinpoche requested Brendan to come teach, and Brendan has agreed to come back in October. So we will announce those dates as soon as we figure out his travel schedule. So that's wonderful. And then some of you may have come in and not noticed, we had a basket outside the door on the right-hand side for any offerings that you wanted to make for Brendan teaching tonight. And then upcoming events. So in just over a week, we have another wonderful teacher coming. His name is Taklung Machol Rinpoche. He's one of the high lamas from the Kagyu tradition. And so he's a student of Choje Rinpoche's. And Choje Rinpoche requested him to come and give teachings, and he's going to be teaching on the 37 verses of a bodhisattva. So that is on Friday night and Saturday morning. And so because of that, even though we just cleaned the center, but then we had events all weekend. So we are requesting people who can come early next Thursday, starting at 5 o'clock and going for about an hour and 15 minutes. We'll do another sweeping and cleaning of the shrine room so we can get ready for Taklung Machol Rinpoche to come. And so we'll provide dinner again. So if you can come right from work, come whenever you can, and we'll put you to work. And then Sundays are open if people don't know that. So from 10 until noon, we have open session here on Sundays. So please come and do your practice then. And thank you again, Brendan, for a wonderful week.
One more thing. You know, Saksha Rinpoche, Choje Rinpoche, saying about being connected, right? Here's the connection again. You stay connected to your teachers by simply doing the practice, not trying to feel connected separately. When you do the practice, you're genuinely connected to your teachers. So this is how we can also stay connected. Thank you.